You know, I tend to be pretty active in the YouTube community for carnivore diet, low carb, that kind of stuff. I don't always go onto other channels and comment, but I watch a lot of their videos. I watch a lot of their live streams. I'll occasionally comment on the live streams and that, but I don't always comment a lot. But I watch a lot of stuff. And I read a lot of comments and stuff like that on different videos, my videos, other people's videos, and so forth. And something I see a lot of is people talking about how you need to eat this or you shouldn't be eating that type of thing. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about my thoughts about all of that. So, first of all, before I get into that, I want to remind you all that I have a live stream tonight with Johnny from the Carnivore Champion channel, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to be talking about carnivore diet myths, debunking the myths. Maybe in some cases we won't actually debunk and we'll find that the myth is true, that kind of thing. But that's going to be our main topic tonight, 8 o'clock p.m. live stream, so check it out. All right, so let's talk about this topic about, whether you need to eat this or you need to stay away from eating that type of thing. Uh, the first thing that I'm thinking here is this is the biggest piece for me, and this is that everybody is different. And just because a particular thing works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for another person. So, because somebody eats a particular food doesn't mean that it's going to get the same effect for another person if they eat that food. Or somebody doesn't eat this food because of X, Y, or Z doesn't mean that somebody else is going to have that same problem if they eat that food. So everyone needs to remember and understand that they're different. And the reason to watch other people and what they do is because it gives you a basis of where to start, where to go, that kind of thing. It might give you ideas for something you hadn't thought about before. It might, give you something to try eating that you didn't try eating before. Or it might be a reminder of something that you didn't really realize that thing wasn't working for you and was causing a problem and you just didn't realize. So maybe you decided to try it. But that doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Doesn't mean it's going to work exactly the same just because that's how it worked for somebody else. So that's my biggest thing with that thought is that you can't just say like don't let's just take this. Like some people say that they eat a lot of butter. They'll eat butter, just plain butter and eat it, right? And that it really works for them because of this or that. Well, you can't say that it's going to work for everybody else. It's kind of that n equals one experiment thing, right? So somebody else might watch that video, said, okay, they eat a lot of butter. I don't do that. Maybe I should try that. So go ahead and try it. If it doesn't work for you, then that's fine. But don't feel like there's something wrong with me because it didn't work for me and somebody else it did work. But for me, I have issues. I get maybe diarrhea or something because the butter is just too much fat for me at one time or something. I don't know. But that those are the things that can happen. Here's another thing. Like, let's talk about some borderline type of things. Dairy, for instance, and this is talking about outside of butter, really, but dairy. So your cheese, milk, different things like that. Maybe yogurts, that kind of stuff. Some people say you can't have that; it gives you problems. It'll give you digestion problems. Might cause weight loss, stalls, that kind of stuff. Well, for somebody else, they might not have that problem, right? They might not run into any issues. Um, they might still lose weight with it. So it's not a one fit all for everybody. Some people will say, well, I don't really consider dairy carnivore, and that's fine. Some people might be that way. Other people might think, well, I do consider it because it comes from an animal. So there's lots of reasons that something might work for somebody and not work for somebody else, and that's okay. And something, some people might think a certain way towards something, and other people might think another way, and that's okay. We are all our own individual person, and we all have, our own beliefs, our own differences, that kind of stuff. And it's okay if somebody else has a slightly different belief on how carnivore should be done, how it should be eaten, whatever it is, that's fine. We can still get along, right? Somebody might be really, really strict carnivore. Somebody might be more what they call dirty carnivore, not as strict. Or they might like to have a cheat meal every once in a while. There was back in 2017, there was this diet that I did, and I lost a lot of weight with it, but it wasn't very sustainable over time for me. What was supposed to make it more sustainable was that you could have 1 or 2 cheat meals a week. It still didn't make it sustainable for me over time, but that is a thought process that comes into play. Some people do that, and that's how they are able to continue with doing that particular diet. Some people do that with carnivore. They say 1 or 2 cheat meals a week gets me that I am able to keep doing it, right? Like it gives me um that bit of, I can't think of the right word I want to say, but that bit of closure, that feeling right for being able to be very strict the rest of the time. And I know people are going to say, well, that's just because they are still addicted to carbs or whatever. And that may be, but the thing is that it works for them. If it works for them, then that's great. And, somebody else might not be able to do that. If they have 1 or 2 cheat meals, it might cause a snowball effect and they want to keep eating bad emails or bad meals, emails, meals, whatever. But you get the point, right? So somebody else might have to be really strict and not have those cheat meals. Everybody's different. And we shouldn't think down on somebody because they have to have they don't have to have, but they want to have 1 or 2 cheat meals, let's say, in a week, right? And we also shouldn't look down on somebody because they need to be really strict and they look at it as, I can't have that cheat meal at all and I have to be really strict. Like some people kind of get upset at those people and say, you know what, they're really bringing down the community because they're being too strict. As long as they're not forcing it on other people, that shouldn't be a problem. Same thing with people that are eating 1 or 2 cheat meals a week. If they're not forcing that on other people, shouldn't be a problem. That's what works for them. And I've heard other people complain and say, you know what, if you talk about eating 1 or 2 cheat meals in a week, that's a problem because that's going to cause people to have trouble. Well, no, it shouldn't, because they should only be getting ideas from you and doing what works for them, right? If that doesn't work for them, then they shouldn't do that. And they need to be able to see that people are human, because they might make a mistake and then they feel really, really bad about it because they ate something that they shouldn't have. They had that cheat meal and now they feel really bad. But come to realization, a lot of people actually might have a cheat meal here and there, and then that's okay. Now, right? They see that and they're like, okay, I'm not going to do it again, or I'm going to try not to do it again, but at least now I understand more. Like I don't feel so isolated because everybody on YouTube seems so perfect. So there's so many different ways to look at everything. And I know this video probably has just gone off the rails and not made a whole lot of sense, but that's okay. Those are just my thoughts right now. And, if you join the live stream tonight at 8 o'clock with Johnny and I, maybe we'll talk about this even a little bit more, because this is probably an interesting topic and I'm sure everybody has their own opinion on it. And at the same time, down in the comments below, give me your opinion. What do you think? I'm over here saying that I think we should all get along with each other and all be okay with different people's preferences, know what our preference is, learn what our preference is, maybe try ideas from other people to help to figure out what our preferences are and go from there with it. So let me know what you think.